This video is huge Palworld drama by our lovely Moistest Critical.
Unfortunately, the fun police have arrived at my door, sirens blaring, and they're demanding that I give a statement defending my crime of enjoying Palworld. Palworld is a game that's become more popular than Stanley Cups right now, with an absolute explosion onto the scene, selling over 7 million copies in less than a week and reaching a concurrent player count of over 2 million, which is the second highest peak Steam has ever seen, second only to PUBG, which is a game that was so popular that it was basically bigger than the Bible for a while. And another thing that really helped with this is the price
Wait, is that why everybody calls him Jesus? I mean, I get the hair and everything, but why does everybody call him like ripped Jesus? The hair and beard? I wonder if that's actually, but isn't Jesus like not the way it's depicted in the Bible? I thought Jesus was like short-haired curly or something like that. Look up a picture without him. Yeah, I've seen him shirtless. It's very nice.
Palworld is under $30. Meanwhile, every Pokemon game, even the older ones like Sword and Shield and Let's Go Pikachu, are still $60. And yet Palworld offers 20 times the amount of content and 20 times the fun of these modern Game Freak Pokemon games. It's a better deal. If you've been watching any of my streams over the last few days, or even just over the last few days, I've uploaded 3 videos on this bad boy. It's pretty clear this thing makes me smile. I've got some childlike whimsy when it comes to Palworld. It's extremely rare for me to get as invested in a game as I have with Palworld. The game is surprisingly deep. It's more of a survival game that has a Pokemon element to it for creature catching, and I just love the entire package here. It's in early access, so it's expectedly buggy and glitches out the wazoo with so many flaws and so many problems, but it has so many elements in it that are done well enough and haven't really been blended together successfully in the past that it feels unique and really fun. The thing it gets compared to most besides Pokemon is Ark, and Ark is a game that I found so boring that it would probably cure anyone's insomnia if they were exposed to it for more than 15 minutes.
Wait. Arc cures insomnia? I should probably play this game. No. Oh, okay.
Functional. I tried to play Ark on stream because my friends and I wanted to build up a really nice crew and eventually raid the devs in the game, but I couldn't even play it on stream because it's so infested with hackers. Anytime I went to a server, a hacker would go in and shut it down and kick us out for 10 minutes. So I couldn't even play that thing. And Palworld just works. Like, even when the servers do go down from stress, they're only down for like 5 minutes tops. Whereas in Ark, if you get into a server within 5 minutes, you've just done a speedrun world record. Now, I know I'm kind of gushing grannies about Palworld right off rip, but I want to make it clear I really like the game. So the drama was quite the head scratcher for me. So let's get into the actual meat of the subject. Palworld is exploding right now, one of the most popular games there is, and there is so much controversy around it, with tons of people trying to make anyone that likes it feel bad for liking it, making all kinds of arguments against it, and I want to go through each and every one of these because I find it to be really surprising that this is where we're at right now, and in the beginning of 2024, that we're mad at bootleg Pokemon here for doing what Game Freak refuses to do: innovate. So I've been very vocal about my
So I've never played. Oh, that face.
taste.
I've never played Pokemon before. What does he mean by innovate? Because I know there's like a lot of Pokemon games. Pokemon has changed nothing in 20 years. They add new Pokemon, but the game does not change. That sounds boring.
For Game Freak's work over the last decade and some change, I think Game Freak is the laziest developers in the world. They get the task once every couple years to go in.
Wait, so then why is Pokemon so popular? If it's like, but it's the same thing and nothing really changes except for, I guess, new animals? Wait, so is it similar to Palworld? Do you go around, build your base? No. Oh. People can have fun playing the same shit for years. Yeah. No. I'm saying that if they're bringing out different games, but it's all the same game, why not just do DLCs of that one game?
And copy and paste their last Pokemon game with no real effort, and somehow they still fuck it up every time. The modern Pokemon games have been the same formula. They haven't changed anything when they've tried with like Arceus. they didn't really go full hog wild with it. They dipped their toes into a couple of ideas and then fucking fell flat on it with mediocre execution. They're too afraid and not talented enough to actually use the Pokemon formula to deliver anything high quality. Multi-billion-dollar franchise, the most fucking lucrative franchise in human history, and the Pokemon games still look like they're made by middle school students as part of some kind of computer science project.
What?
It's embarrassing.
What?
Like Scarlet and Violet barely even fucking worked. And now we have Palworld that comes out from basically an indie studio that does Pokemon so much better. It should be celebrated that Pokemon is finally being realized for the potential of the concept. There is so much you can do with this, and Palworld is showcasing it, which is why it's so popular. So we shouldn't be content just accepting the sewage, the absolute rotten sludge that Game Freak feeds us when it comes to its Pokemon games, because now we've tasted delicacy.
Wait,
with
I'm confused. Game Freak and Nintendo are the same thing? Game Freak is the developer of Pokemon games. So why are people saying Nintendo needs to sue and get their lawyers ready if they're not the ones that are... Nintendo is the copy... Oh, okay. I get it now. Thank you.
World, and it's so far from perfect, but it's still so much better than anything Game Freak has done recently. It's not even a competition. But anyway, sorry, I keep getting off like on tangents right away, but I'm clearly pretty passionate about this topic. So the first thing people immediately started to target Palworld for is the obvious, that it's extraordinarily derivative of Pokemon even from its designs. There are so many pals in Palworld that are basically a carbon copy of Pokemon, just with the color changed. It's actually the meme of, copy my homework, but don't make it too obvious, you know? And then you get the homework and the only thing that changed is the name on the paper, but it's still the same. Admittedly, that is the case with some of the pals in the game. Not all of them, not even most of them, but a small chunk of them, for sure, are very clearly borrowing mini design elements from their Pokemon counterparts. So much so that my friends and I often refer to those pals by their Pokemon name, because they're so close. Now, this has gone a little bit chaotic on Twitter, where people are calling things that don't look similar copies. So a big one was Pinking in Palworld being compared to the penguin counterpart in Pokemon. And these two don't look even remotely similar. They just take the concept of an emperor penguin and do something silly with it in different ways. This tweet sums it up nicely by saying that this actually showcases Palworld putting effort into changing a design concept around and making it their own. So it is a legitimate criticism to dislike how derivative some of the designs are and how it clearly borrows maybe too closely to quite a few of them. But it got out of control with people just saying that for every pal in the game when it's just absolutely not the case. But this is a legitimate criticism that I think is totally reasonable to have and hold against Palworld. I too would like if their designs were a little bit more unique, for sure. That is one of my complaints about the game. Does it ruin my enjoyment of it? Absolutely not.
I don't know any of the designs or which ones look similar to the Pokemons because I've never played Pokemon. So when people say, hey, this looks like this one, and I'm like, cool beans, I don't know.
It definitely doesn't. Is it a bit of a blemish on it? For sure. But now let's get into the ones that I think have absolutely no merit whatsoever. One of the major things people were saying day one with Palworld is that it's just an asset flip. This was a perspective shared by many that decided not to turn their brain on for the day, and they went viral with people pumping their fists like, yeah, it is an asset flip. This was a big one saying that it was creatively bankrupt and poorly put together asset flip of a game. This was another one saying that 10 years ago, an asset flip game like this would have been relentlessly ridiculed and also called it generative AI slop. We'll get into all the AI can of worms here in just a minute, but let's start with this asset flip component. Now, in the first tweet, calling it creatively bankrupt, that's totally fine to say that. Like I said, there are a lot of designs that are very clearly borrowed from Pokemon, but overall, the product is not creatively bankrupt. I haven't seen a Pokemon with guns style game that has survival elements that are blended together pretty well with a really large world with quite a lot to do in it. Granted, a lot of times, a lot of the biomes of the world are super barren and empty, but overall, I'd say that I haven't really seen any other games like Palworld, so I definitely wouldn't call it creatively bankrupt, but maybe he's playing some real heaters behind the scenes that aren't released yet. But anyway, calling it an asset flip, I think is some absolute smooth brain nonsense. Either you don't know what an asset flip game is, or you're just baiting engagement through being incendiary for the sake of some numbers on your tweets. There's just no way anyone genuinely thinks that about this game. I am a connoisseur of asset flips. If you watch my streams, you know I do something called Bad Game Night, where I'll go through Steam's new releases and play games that nobody has ever heard of, looking for the stinkiest, most foul abominations game engines are capable of pumping out, and most of those games are legitimate asset flips. What it means is the game is composed entirely of store-bought assets, and everything is just jumbled together into an absolute mess.
That's
that
not
kind of
Palworld,
works.
though.
Usually what it is some kind of open-world zombie horde shooter. That's your most notable culprit, your most common offender of being an asset flip. It just takes things from the Unreal Engine store, it takes the guns, the character, sets you in there, and you just randomly shoot zombies and other assets that
That
charge
sounds
at you.
horrible.
That's a f***ing asset flip, and there's varying degrees of it, but that's your most egregious
Sounds
example.
horrible.
Palworld should not even be in the same sentence as asset flip. Does it use assets? Absolutely. You know what else does? Everything else. Every other game in existence uses assets to different degrees. Palworld is no exception there. There is clearly assets there, but it's not the bulk of the game. It's not entirely composed of it or anything like that. They're used in their product the same way they are in every other major release. It's not a f***ing asset flip. And if we're going to play ball with this idea, you know what would absolutely qualify as an asset flip to people that believe this for Palworld? Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker is another game that I absolutely love, and this was a video game industry darling for a little while, and Dark and Darker is almost entirely composed of Unreal Engine assets that they bought and put into their game. They openly state that much of the 3D graphics assets were purchased from the Unreal Marketplace, and there are tons of links to them in the store that they used in their game. It's a ton of assets they used in it. Significantly more than Palworld. Why did I not hear a whole bunch of hoopla about Dark and Darker being an asset flip? That's weird. It seems really selective to just choose Palworld for this. It doesn't make any sense.
Elden
you
Ring
clearly
uses
haven't played
store
the game and we're
assets?
grasping at straws for something to shit on it for because it's popular, is how it
Elden
seems.
Ring was so
because
pretty.
it is just, by no definitions, an asset flip. But now let's get into some of the other ones that have been very controversial. A big one is the claim
Phasmo's
that
made
a
with
lot
store
of it was
assets?
AI generative. Now, this is a
Never
real
heard of Dark and
problem that I think
Darker?
the video game industry
Dark and Darker exploded, and then something happened with the court. I don't know, did they ever win that? I forget who they were like fighting with in court. No, not yet. Nexon, okay. What did Nexon say? That they like stole their game or something, right? Or they like stole ideas and stuff? Stole assets. Oh yeah, stole it. Okay, well.
industry is going to be facing very soon, with AI being integrated into games in a way that's going to be extremely scary going forward, take a lot of jobs, and produce a lot of slop. I think that is absolutely right around the corner. But right now, there is no proof at all that AI was used in any way in Palworld. Right now, all that evidence is based off the developer, as well as a couple of statements I believe the CEO made in a previous project. There's a PC Gamer article going over this as well that talks about how this AI claim is right now just based off of hunches. There's a ton of people playing Super Sleuth right now and investigating whether or not AI was used, and at the moment there's no substantiated evidence to back up any claims that AI was used in this project at all. Now, if it does come out that AI was used in this game, that will certainly change my impression of it. I am not looking forward to the future where AI is replacing real human ingenuity in entertainment. I am very much dreading that. It's extremely concerning to imagine that future where all of your entertainment is just part of an algorithm that the AI knows that you're going to enjoy and clap and spit up at. So if it does come out that Palworld used AI in a big capacity during its development, obviously that's going to change how I feel about the game.
Yeah.
100%. But right now, again, there is no proof of AI being used here, and yet some people are singing it like it's the gospel and 100% confirmed and true, based off nothing. Which is basically Twitter in a nutshell, to be honest. Now let's get to one that I actually found to be the most interesting at the time. There was a Twitter thread that came out talking about how the models are exactly the same in Palworld to some of the Pokemon counterparts, basically insinuating that they kind of just took the models and tweaked them slightly but kept everything else intact. That they copied the models and made exact replicas. Which would be a big deal. If they took that and copied it for their game, that would probably open them up to a huge lawsuit from Nintendo, because that is literally just stealing their work. But then this morning, it turns out that the person that was posting all the
Imagine if AI could rig a VTuber model. I would always choose an actual human artist. I don't like AI. I hate AI artwork. I like supporting actual artists. So I would never. For some reason, people who consume art don't understand that it is a luxury. They might see how expensive becoming a viewer actually is and jump on the AI train. Exactly.
Person that was posting all the threads going over like how the models are the exact same meshes and everything was a bunch of hooey. It was a load
I
of
like
dirty
that word.
barnacles. It turns out
Hooey.
they were actually doing like some dubious scaling in order to make them fit, so it wasn't exact meshes or copies or anything like that. And they even openly admitted that they feel regretful for calling it exact and this and that. And then they posted a pin tweet saying this. I am doing this because I think it's disgusting how much Palworld glorifies animal abuse.
That's my face right now. It's a video game. And you guys know me. I'm all for animals and everything. If it was my world, if it was my perfect world, we would never eat another animal. I'm still playing Palworld. I'm still slicing up those little Lambert. Everyone that uses Twitter needs to go outside. Yes.
What in tarnation? What the hell is even that? That is a load of poop with some fart on it. You're doing this because Palworld glorifies animal abuse. It's a video game.
True!
Someone also pointed out that Pokemon is literally sanitized cockfighting. It is. I mean, you're making the animals fight each other, and they respond saying, I think that's bad too. So then where is this energy for Pokemon? Like, it doesn't compute. I can't tell if they're just trolling or not, but they have so many threads about how Palworld copied the exact meshes and, you know, insinuating that there's so much foul play there that it feels weird if it'd be satirical because you went through so much effort to like take down Palworld with these claims or like attempt to. It's so odd. It's a video game. It's not real. There's no animal abuse and it's not promoting
That's
it.
almost like
no kid's
parents
gonna play Palworld.
who are like, video games are violent. My child is never allowed to play video games because my child will become violent for playing video games because the video games are real and they make all children violent. That's the type of parent that person's gonna be. I'm calling it.
And go out, find some kind of exotic animal and make it work in the mines. Like, that's not gonna happen. It's what is happening? What's going on here? So anyway, the claims about the meshes being exact aren't true. However, I wanted to do more digging because even if you just look at it with the old eyeball test, the meshes of the models in Palworld are super, super similar to the Pokemon ones. The shapes are the same. A lot of the placement of certain appendages and stuff is in the same location. So I did a little sleuthing of my own here, did a little digging around, and I found a YouTuber named GoGo who was a technical animator and gave their perspective on this and talked about why the similarities in the meshes matters. Now, there are differences between them, obviously, like the topology of it is very different from Palworld to Pokemon, but the general shape remains mostly the same, and some of the locations of certain appendages on other models is similar to the Pokemon one or in the same location. And GoGo explains how this helps with animation. If you're looking to take an animation and bring it over to something else, because the shape stays the same, it makes it simpler and quicker. Now, I want to be clear, GoGo's not pointing the finger here, trying to accuse Palworld of doing anything wrong, and in fact even mentions that Nintendo could easily sue and they'd already have all of the evidence. They probably would have already sued if this was the case, if Palworld developers were just taking their models and porting the animations over or something. Nintendo would have likely already taken action because the evidence is just right there at your fingertips. It's pretty quick to access.
Did you say tits or tips? Tits or tips?
Because the evidence is just right there at your fingertips. It's pretty quick to
Tits.
access. So GoGo's just giving their perspective as an industry veteran here that these shapes do matter, and since they're so similar, it does open the door to speculation on whether or not the Palworld developers copy and pasted things like the animation or something of that effect. It just leads to speculation on whether or not they're being truthful about creating from scratch. Again, GoGo isn't making any accusations against them, just stating that the shapes are important, even if it's not like exact one-to-one meshes. Just having the shapes be in like the exact same order and same placement is still a big deal in the profession, according to GoGo. Of course, I'm not in the industry, so I don't know, but still pretty interesting nonetheless. And another thing GoGo mentions that I want to mention is that a lot of people have brought up the fact that a lot of Pokemon are based on real-world animals.
True!
And thus, a lot of the pals in Palworld are based on animals. There's only so many ways of conveying a snake, or a lamb, or a stingray. like the shapes there are going to be pretty closely resembling each other, I imagine, because at its core, it's still this real life animal that we know. So, like a snake is going to look cylindrical and long across, right? So, that could be an explanation for it, but since it is still so close, it does just have that level of speculation to it. Though I do think that argument could also work for shooters as well. So, like, there's only so many ways of conveying a certain gun, right? So, I bet if you broke
True.
down the mesh and model of a lot of guns, comparing Call of Duty guns to Battlefield guns to any other FPS guns, you'd probably find the meshes look pretty similar there too. And I don't think that indicates that they're just copy and pasting the same shit. But again, I'm not knowledgeable enough on this area to really speak on it with any real authority. I'm just giving my perspective on it. I do agree that there's only so many ways of conveying like a snake and shit, but it's really odd how there are very similar elements shared in the mesh to Pokemon counterparts that aren't normally there on a snake. But anyway, there's still no concrete proof that Palworld developers took these meshes and are just copy and pasting this shit behind the scenes. So these were all the main controversial talking points used to shit on Palworld and say that we shouldn't be encouraging it, this game doesn't deserve its success, this and that. And I understand like some people being put off by it being too derivative, that's understandable. But a lot of the other things like AI, there's no proof of it even being used in Palworld, and yet it's being used as this gotcha for why Palworld's the ultimate evil. Shit like that, I just think is reaching for controversy or calling it like an asset flip. There's plenty of things to not like about the game. As I said, it's so far from perfect, but it's still super fun and significantly better than anything Game Freak has put out in a long, long time. So I personally am not super bothered by some of the designs being extremely derivative. I hope they don't go that direction in the future. It seems like they're actually going to be updating this game. They just released a roadmap already, and it's been less than a week, so they're already looking to keep updating the game and improving it. So I'm excited to see where it'll be by the end of the year if they keep up that energy, because I do think there's so much potential here, and it is showing that there is a lot of potential, a lot of juice left here in the Pokemon idea, the concept of creature catching, monster taming. So I've been really enjoying it. If there is big revelations about AI being used, or if it turns out that they have been copy and pasting Pokemon behind the scenes, obviously that would change my perception of it quite a bit. But as of right now, there's still no proof of any of that. But yeah, anyway, that's my full thoughts on the whole Palworld drama. That's about it.
Thank you, Moistest Critical. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your insight. A lovely insight. Thank you.